Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. There's two pieces there. One is the reaction we have to what that family member has done that hurts us. Okay? So the first part is essentially how we deal with that pain, that hurt, that reaction based on what they have done. When there is something they have done and it has hurt us and we cannot let it go, how we deal with it. And the second part essentially is when the relationship itself is not healthy for us, then what to do. And I've purposely separated them into two parts because holding a grudge against someone full of pain, full of anger, full of resentment, is actually much more unhealthy than any actual relationship is. I'm not saying there aren't relationships that are unhealthy. There are, and we'll come to that. But you need to realize that your resentment, your grudge, is actually much more unhealthy than anything that someone else might be doing short of actual abuse. Because the grudge, the pain, the resentment, the anger is a poison in you that is literally festering in you every minute of every day. It's impacting everything you think about. It's impacting everything you do. It's preventing you from living your life in peace, in joy, in freedom. So before we even come to the what do we do about the relationship, it's really important that you let go. That doesn't mean you hold on to the relationship. You may decide to let go of the relationship, but you still need to let go of the pain. Regardless of what you do with the relationship, you've got to let go of the pain because that is what's going to kill you. That internal grudge, that anger, that's going to kill you. That's why we forgive. We don't forgive because what everyone does is okay. We don't forgive because what everyone does is forgivable. We forgive because if we don't forgive, that which they did will kill us, steal our lives, steal our peace, steal our health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. And so even if we never talk to the person again, even if we never see the person again, we still have to forgive. Forgiving doesn't mean I want you back in my life. Forgiving doesn't mean, oh yeah, that was so great. Would you just abuse me again? Let's try that one again. It's not what it means. What it means is I deserve to be free. Regardless of what you did to me, I deserve to be free. Regardless of your ego, fear, anger, pain, arrogance, illusion, confusion, I deserve to be free. And as long as I'm holding on to pain and a grudge, I am not free. So you must let go. That must be the very first thing you do. Your relationship with yourself is far more important than your relationship with anyone else. Deal with them later. Deal with yourself first. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone comes up to you to steal your purse. They come to mug you and they stab you with a knife. Okay? Straight in. You've been stabbed. You're gushing blood. What are you going to do? You're going to get up and run after them? Come back here. Who the hell do you think you are? Give me back my purse. You hurt me. I'm going to call the police. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go to a hospital. You're going to call a doctor. You're going to do something to stop up your bleeding wound. Because you understand, I'm dying here. I'll deal with them later. File a police report later. Get my bag back later. But if I spend my attention and time going after them now, I'm not going to make it. I'm gushing blood. I have to take care of myself first. And this is true whether someone stabs you with a knife or with their words or with their actions. When you have been hurt, the longer you hold on to it, the longer you run after them metaphorically or physically, trying to show them, get them, do something related to them, the longer that wound has to grow and fester and get infected and ultimately kill you. So first things first, take care of your pain. Take care of your grudge. And the only way to do that is to forgive. And if you can't just do it on your own, get some help. But make that a priority. Get spiritual help. Get psychological help. Get whatever help you need to forgive and let go and move on. Then you can deal with the relationship. And then you can ask yourself, is this a relationship that makes sense for me? A lot of times we may think a relationship isn't healthy just because it's difficult. We may think a relationship isn't healthy just because someone, pushes our buttons and it's a little bit more challenging to stay in peace around that person. But that doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is bad for us. The relationship may be a great sadhana, a great tapasya. We pay a lot of money for a gym membership to go to the gym and actually lift up weights that hurt our arms. It hurts to do it. But we actually pay money. We give up our lunch hour. We give up our free time to go and do it because we know that pain while I'm doing it is actually building the muscle. So that in the future I can do a lot more of this without being in pain. And I'm not saying this is the case for you because I don't know the situation of your relationship. And I'm not saying that every relationship is okay. There absolutely are relationships that are, poison for you. But before you rush out of it, ask yourself, is this just, God who's given me some emotional barbells or some spiritual weights in the house that I have to lift up a few times in the morning, a few times midday, a few times in the evening? Is this just God giving me kind of a free home spiritual gym to build up my internal muscles? And if so, don't run away so fast. Anybody who's ever tried to get someone else to exercise knows how difficult it is, right? The person who doesn't want to exercise says, oh, I don't feel like it. I'd rather just, why can't I just stay home and watch TV? And you're saying, come on, you got to come with me for a jog. We got to go to the gym. Come on. I know it hurts, but you're going to feel so much better afterwards. Well, in the same way, spiritually and emotionally, we may say, I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to have to do this work. But really ask yourself before you leave it, is the situation actually poison for me? Or is it just my home spiritual gym that God's given me to build up my spiritual muscles? So really be careful about that before you decide that the problem really is the other person. See whether building up some spiritual muscles doesn't change it for you. And then if you find that for whatever reason that relationship really is poison, and usually the only things in my book that would qualify it as that is if the person you're having a relationship with is abusive, physically, verbally, emotionally, sexually, or if that person is preventing you from actually living your dharma. If that person is actually preventing you, either physically or through emotional manipulation, from fulfilling your dharma, those in my book would be the only situations in which I would actually say, get out. Otherwise, relationship is a yoga. It's a yoga. It's a spiritual practice. It's not something that comes easy. Whether it's spouses, whether it's parents and children, whether it's in-laws, whether it's co-workers, whether it's neighbors, there's always some kind of, you move a few blocks away, you got a different neighbor, different situation. This one's dog barked, the new one plays music till midnight. It's always going to be something. You're much better off working it out where you are in yourself, getting those spiritual muscles strong, rather than just trying to remove from your life things that rub you in the wrong way. Because that leaves you very spiritually and emotionally weak. But if it is really wrong and it is really poison, then you need to have the courage to save yourself.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going Om. My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. I recently lost my husband after 22 years of marriage, and I truly believe that I am to blame for his death. My behavior toward the end of his life was horrible, and I feel that this is the reason that he died. Now I am lost without him. Feelings of guilt, especially when bad things happen to people we love, so frequently leads to us feeling guilty. Someone we love gets sick, someone we love dies, someone we love is in some kind of a bad situation, and it's very common that we think, oh my God, if only, if I just had called, if I just hadn't called, if I just had gone to see them, if I just hadn't gone to see them, and then they wouldn't have been there, and then they wouldn't have been in the house when the fire struck or when the earthquake struck. If I just had done this or been like that, then this wouldn't have happened. It's also really common that we look back on how we were with that person we loved, and that a lot of us could feel like this questioner does, my behavior was horrible. I mean, if you stop for a moment and you think right now about the people you love, just choose 2 or 3 people you love. People who are still living. And just think about your last 10, 15 interactions with them. Whether you have 10, 15 interactions a day or a week or a month, whatever it may be. But just think back on the last 10, 15 interactions you had with those people you loved. For most of us, when we think back on those interactions, sadly, we are not filled with a sense of, oh, God, I'm so good to them. They're so good to me. I'm really conscious and present and aware and loving when I'm with them. Most of us, when we think about it, we feel kind of badly. Like, oh my God, I didn't speak nicely to them at all. I was impatient. I was short. I was too busy. I didn't pay attention. I didn't help when they needed help. And so if that person happened to die, then we would look back on those interactions even more strongly. And then we'd feel even worse about them. So here's what I can tell the person who asked this question. You are not to blame for your husband's passing. Even if you wanted to have control over someone else's karmic journey, you couldn't. We don't have that power. And that's even if you actually took a bow and arrow or a knife or a gun. I mean, Lord Krishna makes it so clear in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna says, but I could kill them. And Bhagavan Krishna basically says, and who are you to be the one who gets to decide who lives and who dies? Like, that's not up to you. Yeah, the bow and arrow's in your hands. But don't think you're the one in charge. Don't think you're the one who's determining who lives and who dies. This is written. It's written into karma. You're just a vehicle of that karmic experience happening to them, for them. So if Arjun himself, with a bow and arrow aimed at someone, pulling back the bow, flinging the arrow, if he's not the ultimate cause of that person's death, the teaching of it, it's not an abdication of responsibility. We have to take responsibility for what we do. That's our own karmic journey. We're getting all of the karmic results of what we do, so we must take responsibility, but we don't have control of someone else's karmic package. So Arjun didn't have control of Duryodhana and his family and associates' karmic package. And this woman who's asked the question, you didn't have control over your husband's karmic journey. That which you said or didn't say, how nice you were to him or not nice you were to him, isn't what led to his death. Because you haven't been given that power. That would mean that you were given more power than Arjun. It would mean that you were given more power than Bhagwan Krishna says we have. Now, if you were nicer, the last days of his life would have been nicer, no question about that. There wouldn't have been as much conflict, there wouldn't have been as much struggle, there wouldn't have been as much negativity, absolutely. But you didn't cause his death. You're not responsible for that. But also recognize that it's very natural to think that you are. It's how so many of us think. But recognize that you're not. But allow this, instead of it being festering guilt inside of you, allow it to be a really powerful, difficult, tragic wake-up call of living consciously in every moment. Because even though your actions or words didn't change his outcome, it certainly changed the environment in which he died. It changed the environment in which he lived those last days or weeks or months. And that is a power that we have that we don't realize, is how we create the environment we live in and how we create energetically situations for other people as well. So when you think about those 2 or 3 people I had you think about in the beginning, if the last 10 or 15 interactions with them have not been ones that make you feel very proud, very happy, that yeah, you're really living in presence, in love, in truth, then be very grateful that they are still alive and that you do still have the opportunity to change while you still have them. And if those people are no longer living, or in the case of this woman whose husband, yeah, it's an awful tragedy. And his soul, his spirit is still here. His body is no longer here, but his soul and his spirit is, and you can still communicate with him. Yourself. I don't mean you have to go and find a medium to communicate through, but you can connect inside yourself. You've lived with him, you've known him, you've loved him for decades. Surely you can feel him inside of you, hear him inside of you, see him inside of you. Because it's only the body that dies, not the soul, not the spirit. And so if there's someone in your life who has passed away and you feel like there's unfinished business, that you didn't really get to say what you wanted, you didn't get to say it in the right way, you didn't act in the right way, talk to them now. Close your eyes and talk to them now. They can hear you. And whenever you feel regret about not having been present in those moments, let it be just a powerful and difficult and yet beautiful reminder of the importance of being present and living in our heart every minute. You know, there's a practice given by the followers of something called Stoicism, which is a path, a practice about maintaining equanimity, maintaining balance, maintaining actually a sense of happiness no matter what happens outside. And one of the practices that they use is literally imagining that someone you really love has died. And don't do it for too long because it becomes very troubling, but just 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Just think for 3 to 5 seconds that someone you really love has died. And see what that does to you inside, and you feel like, oh my God, oh no. And then you come back and you remember, oh no, they haven't actually. That was just an exercise I was doing. And what you'll find is that the love you have for that person, the gratitude you have for them, the gratitude you have to the divine for giving you that person, is so much more than it was 10 seconds ago. And so it's a great practice. You can do it for a loved one, you can do it for your job, you can do it for your house, you can do it for your health, you can do it for your life. Anything that you take for granted. Just give yourself a few seconds to imagine that you no longer have it. Imagine that a doctor has just given you a terminal diagnosis. Oh my God. And then realize it's not true. And just notice how grateful you are for the health of your body that we weren't even noticing 10 seconds ago. As you walk into your house, just think for a moment that you're walking through ashes, that it's burned down. And then realize it hasn't. And how grateful you are for that which you have. So, back to the questioner, I am so sorry about the loss of your husband. I wish I had a magic wand to bring him back, to let you do it differently. But one of the most difficult and yet non-negotiable truths of life is there's no rewind button. There's no do-over. You know, on the computer, we've got this Control-Z or Alt-Z or Apple-Z, depending on what computer you use. And it just undoes whatever you've done. You can just undo it. Life, unfortunately, doesn't have such a button. Which means that we need to really be conscious in every minute and every moment. If this were the last moment of our life, of that person's life, of my health, of my job, how would I feel? And can I live to the highest consciousness? In love, in truth, in sincerity, in presence, in gratitude? But lastly, please remember, please know, you did not kill him. It is not your fault that he died. And if you don't believe me, just pick up the Bhagavad Gita and read it and reread it and reread it and reread it until you know it.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. We are told by Krishna, by Bhagwan Krishna, come to me. Come to me, surrender to me, take refuge in me. All of that you are suffering from, if you just come to me and take refuge in me, you will be free. He said, so we go to God, we surrender to God, we offer ourselves to God, but still there's fear, still there's uneasiness, there's lack of peace, there's restlessness. So how do we increase that sense of refuge, that sense of being just in the lap of God so that we are free of that? Let's imagine that you're wearing a backpack. And in that backpack, you put all of your items, whatever they may be. Your books, your jewelry, your photographs, your whatever it might be, your money. You put all of these things in your backpack. Then you go and you sit in your mom's lap or your dad's lap, or you go to the mandir or whatever house of worship you go to in your religion, doesn't matter. And you bow at the feet of the divine. But you've still got your backpack on, right? मैंने ये कहा कि समझ लो कि आप पीठ के ऊपर अपना बैग रख लेंगे. बैग में आपने अपने सारे सामान डाल दिया. ठीक है, फिर आप मंदिर में जाओ. कृष्ण भगवान की चरण में आपने सब समर्पित किया. लेकिन बैकपैक तो है ना? अब समझ लो कि उसी बैकपैक में आपके सारे विचार, आपके सारे डिजायर्स, आपके सारे फियर्स, आपके सारे अटैचमेंट्स आपने उसमें डाल दिया. अब आपने प्रणाम किया, लेकिन बैकपैक जो है आपने उसको समर्पित तो नहीं किया. बैकपैक तो आपके पास है. तो जहां भी हो वो बैकपैक होगा आपके साथ. जब तक वो बैकपैक आप वो सरेंडर नहीं करेंगे, वो समर्पित नहीं करेंगे, वो तो रहेगा आपके पास. तो यदि उसमें भय है या अशांति है, अपने डिजायर से, अपने अटैचमेंट से, वो तो रहेंगे. वो आपके सारे मन को भी और मन की कैल को और सारे वासनास को सारे desires को भी समर्पित करना है. Said what you need to do is not only bow yourself to God, not only surrender yourself to God, but you actually have to surrender that backpack. Because if that backpack is full of, let's say, instead of just your books and photos, if it's full of your fears and your desires, your attachments, your expectations, it's full of all of the ways that you identify yourself, your stories. I am like this. I am depressed. I am an alcoholic. I have anger issues. I am lazy. Whatever you tell yourself, whatever your self-identification may be, if that's in your backpack, well, that's going to stay with you no matter how low on the ground you may bow at the feet of God. You're still stuck with all of that. And that's what creates the lack of peace in our life. So as we offer ourselves to God, we have to also offer the games of our mind, our fears, our desires. That's where we have to pray. Take my fears, take my desires, take my attachments, take my expectations, take my false identifications, take all of that. Let's say I've got $1 million in my bank account that I made by being a good businesswoman, okay? Now I donate all of that $1 million to the temple, let's just say. Well, that's very generous. You could say I have dedicated everything to God, except I'm still holding my attachment of I am the good businesswoman who donated all of her money to the temple. That attachment to that identification, that story I tell myself about who I am, is actually the cause of my lack of peace, much more so than the money was. So I donated that which wasn't actually causing me trouble, but I didn't give that which was causing me trouble, which is why even after seemingly having given everything, I'm still not in peace. मैंने कहा कि ये जो अपनी आइडेंटिटी है, जो हम स्वयं के बारे में बताते हैं, हम क्या है, हम कौन है, वो कहानी जो है, जब तक हम वो भी अर्पित ना करें, तो उसी की वजह से अशांति है. अगर मैं अपने सारे पैसा मंदिर को दे दूं, लेकिन मन में मैं स्वयं को बताती रहती हूं कि हाँ, मैं वही हूं जिन्होंने सारे पैसा कमाया और फिर सारे पैसा दे दिया, तो उसी कहानी की वजह से मेरा अहंकार बढ़ जाता है. उसी कहानी की वजह से मेरी इच्छाएं बढ़ती हैं. कौन सी इच्छाएं? कि सब भी मेरा प्रशंसा करेंगे, कि सब जानेंगे कि हाँ, वही यही है जिन्होंने सब कुछ दिया था मंदिर को, कि सब मेरे से अच्छी तरह से बात करेंगे क्योंकि मैं तो वही हूं. उसी आइडेंटिटी की वजह से अशांति है, पैसा की वजह से नहीं. वो मेरा जो इग्नोरेंस है, उसकी वजह से मैं अशांत हूं. लगता है कि मैंने सब कुछ अर्पित किया, शरणागति में आ गया, अब तो शांति प्राप्त करूंगी. लेकिन जो चीज जिसकी वजह से मैं अशांत हूं, वो तो मैंने नहीं दिया, इसलिए अशांति है. So when we really surrender to the divine, we have to surrender the stories we tell ourselves. If we went around and I said to you all, tell me the biggest problem you face in your life, and then tell me why you face it. Every one of you will have a story about why you face that struggle. This is why I suffer depression. This is why I am an alcoholic. This is why I am not in peace. This is why, and whether it's a story from our childhood, something that happened in the past, whether it's a story about today, it's my husband or my wife or my children or my in-laws or my employers or my employees, whatever it might be. We have a story about us, who we think we are, and our role in this universe. And those stories are the things that actually create the lack of peace. तो वो सब कुछ आपको अर्पित करना है कि हे भगवान, बस आपकी हूँ, आपके संतान हूँ, बस इतना जानते हूँ और कुछ भी मालूम नहीं है, बस आपकी संतान हूँ, आपकी हूँ, मेरे को अपने शरण में ले लो, मैं निमित्र मातम भाव से जीने दो, जीने सिखाओ। जब वो भाव आता है तो फिर शांति प्राप्त होती है। When we really say to God, I have no idea who I am, other than I am yours, and I am you. Other than that, you just use me. Use me as an instrument of your grace. When we can do that, and we can let go of all of the other drama identity stories, then we find peace.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rain.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. So he's asked, how can we have real faith in God? And how can we have patience to experience God? Pehle hum bharosa le le, fir dira ja jaye. Yeah. So faith, the reason that a lot of us don't have faith, or we have faith and we lose faith, is because we tend to see the divine very much like a vending machine. We want something. We do that which we think we need to do to get what we want. And when we don't get it, we think, machine is broken. Like, if we walk up to a vending machine and we put in our money and we push the button for chocolate bar, but we don't get chocolate bar out. Maybe we get a bag of carrots out or a bottle of water out. Instead of thinking we've been given that which we need rather than that which we want, we assume machine is broken. Maybe we'll try again, we'll put in more money. Maybe we'll kick the machine, maybe we'll shake it a little bit. And if it doesn't work, to fir lagta hai ki toot gaye, machine is broken. Sadly, the same thing happens with our faith in God. We do our prayers, we do our mantra, we do our pujas, we do whatever we think being a good spiritual or religious person means. But we take it, sadly, very much like it's kind of a contract bargaining system. I do this for you, and then you do that for me. I will do 11 malas of jap, and you will make sure that my child gets into the university they want to go to. I will donate money to the mandir. I will sponsor the Monday's Abhishek. And in exchange, my child should find a very good husband or wife, the one that I want. We look at God like we are buying something on Amazon, right? Like, I'm going to give this much money and I'm going to get that and it'll be home delivery. 24-hour service. But that's not how God works. There's no scripture, there's no teaching that says, here's your menu. You want happiness? You want the right husband or wife for your children? This many rounds of japa, this much puja, this many abhisheks. Doesn't say that anywhere. You want a good job? This many abhishek, this much puja, this much japa. There's no menu. Because God is not about bargaining. But इसलिए हमारे विश्वास टूटते हैं क्योंकि लगता है कि मैंने सब कुछ तो किया मेरी ओर से और भगवान की ओर से कुछ आने रहे जो मैं चाहती हूँ, तो इसका मतलब है कि वेंडिंग मशीन तो काम नहीं करते. तो अपनी भरोसा जो है, अपना श्रद्धा, अपना विश्वास, वो टूटते हैं. तो हमें याद रखना है कि भगवान के साथ बार्गेन नहीं करना. It's not a two-way street with God. It's not, I do this for you, then you will do that for me. It's, I come to you, surrender myself to you, not because then I'm going to get something, but because then I will actually be free. Because until I am with you, as long as I'm holding on to this ignorance, to these desires, to this fear, to this story, I am suffering. I am the one who's suffering. By coming to you, I let go of my suffering. By coming to you, I get wisdom. This is why our prayers say things like, Asato ma sadgamaya, lead me from falsehood to truth. Tamso ma jyotirgamaya, lead me from darkness, means ignorance, to light, means wisdom. There's no prayer that says, lead me from being just a low-level mail clerk to being the CEO of the company. Lead me from living in a small one-story house to living in a mansion. This is not what we're supposed to be praying to God for. Lead me from being single to being married. Lead me from being not so attractive to being Miss Universe. These are not the prayers that we are given. There's no scripture you're going to find That's the remove the pimples from my face prayer. Make me very attractive to the opposite sex or same sex, whatever you want prayer. Those prayers don't exist. Because what we're supposed to be praying for is wisdom, truth, clarity, not things. But as long as our mind thinks that we want things, or comforts, or convenience, or luxury, well, then we're going to think the machine is broken. So we lose our faith. When we realize that God's promise to us is, come to me fully, and your suffering will end. Not that things in the world will start going your way. Not that you won't get fired or dumped by a loved one. Not that your house won't burn down. Not that you won't lose your money. Those promises are not there. But come to me and your suffering that is born out of ignorance, that you will be free of. Come to me. And this cycle of birth and death, in which you are just living in ignorance and a slave to your karmic package, that cycle you will be free of. Not come to me, I will free you of the traffic, or come to me, I will free you of an annoying boss. Not that. Come to me, I will free you of the cycle of samsara. I will free you of the cycle of birth and death. That's what we should be praying for. And when we pray for that, then our faith is not lost. So we have to ask ourselves, what was I expecting? Jiski wajah se mera vishwas toot gaye, due to which I lost my faith. And in terms of having patience, well, my guru, Puja Swamiji, always says, if you don't want to be a patient with a T in the hospital, if you don't want to be a patient in the hospital, be patient, have patience. मतलब अगर बीमार नहीं होना चाहते हैं, हॉस्पिटल में नहीं जाना चाहते हैं, तो फिर have patience. To not be a patient, you must have patience. Be patient or become a patient. Because when we are not patient, we get frustrated, we get depressed, we get miserable. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, all of that goes up. So we end up a patient. How to have patience? By realizing that every moment is a gift. You say, how to have patience for God. Well, God is here already. God isn't anywhere other than here. Realize that. Realize the perfection of this moment. In this moment, yes, you may be waiting for an experience, an opening, a transformation, enlightenment, samadhi, whatever we call it. But realize that this very moment is also perfect. Because in this very moment, God is also there. Our sadhana is not that which brings God. Our sadhana is that which cleans our eyes, cleans our vision, so we can see the divine which is already there. So if you find yourself impatient, it means our eyes have to be cleaned a little more, a little more, a little more, so that we can actually see the divine in this moment. But also, as you're longing for God, more presence of the divine, more of an experience, just think of Shabri, right? Think of Shabri, who just every day swept the floor of not only her house, but of all the roads, waiting for Bhagwan Ram to come. She wasn't impatient. She didn't start yelling and screaming. She didn't lose faith. Just singing every day as she swept the floor, knowing God was going to come. So if you find yourself impatient, just channel Shabri. Channel her with that bhav, that bhakti, knowing ki it'll happen. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on Om Times Radio.